Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast. This is your escape for real, unscripted conversations about sports, hobbies, life, and storytelling. No scripts, no forced takes, just Man Cave talk. Now, here's your host, Dan Casper.
Let's continue our 250 countdown as we are getting set for America's 250th birthday. We are counting down the most influential, the most famous teams, players, coaches, games, all that stuff. You can't tell the history of American sports without these 250 things. So we kicked it off the other day, and we set the basis. We looked at the leagues, right? I mean, it kind of starts a lot with the leagues out there. So let's kind of take a look at some of the athletes. Now, if you follow my Facebook page, I did post last night, who, in your opinion, is the most influential athlete in the past 250 years, the best, the most popular? Can go about it different ways. Here are some of the responses. Babe Ruth in baseball, MJ in basketball, Tom Brady in football, Jordan, Jim Thorpe, Babe Ruth. We've got Tiger Woods. We've got Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Brett Favre. We've got LeBron, about to be Wemby, MJ, Brady, Ruth, Gretzky, Jackie Robinson, Jesse Owens, Babe, Michael, Reggie White, Ali, Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan. So a lot of repeat names out there, which shouldn't be a big surprise. So I'm going to go with 10 right away, and these aren't the only 10. So I don't want anybody yelling or complaining, saying, well, how did you miss this person? How did you miss that person? And such. These are the first 10. We got 240 more spots to go here. Trust me, there's a lot more athletes coming up on this list. But like a lot of you said, Michael Jordan's on this list. You can't tell the history, not only of the history of the NBA, without arguably the game's greatest player of all time. You can't tell the history of sports without Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I mean, when I think about the NBA, he is the first name that still comes to my mind. He is still the first player that comes to my mind, is Michael Jordan. To me, in my opinion, is the best player that the NBA has seen in its 250 years. There's been some great players. There's been some other GOATs. But if I had to pick one, if I had to rank one, Michael Jordan for me. Michael Jordan kind of took the game to another level. Popularity, pop culture, and just overall play. I mean, just he was a guy, I've said it many times, that when I was a kid and I was a young NBA fan watching, I didn't like Michael Jordan. I didn't like Michael Jordan for the pure fact that he beat my teams. Kind of like where a lot of people don't like Tom Brady, because Tom Brady and the Patriots won a lot. A lot of it was straight up jealousy, 100% jealousy. But you know what? Now I love Michael Jordan. I've got a Michael Jordan wingspan poster in my man cave. I've got Jordan books. You know, now I respect the heck out of Jordan and his game and what he meant to the game of basketball. And there are so many different levels that we can pinpoint to Jordan and the effect. I mean, branding. The Jordan brand, for crying out loud. That's another element to this thing. When you talk about the world of sports or sports in the last 250 years, you want to talk about branding? Michael Jordan, if he's not one, he is up there in terms of the most popular athlete in branding, the logo, right? The Jumpman logo. Even long past his playing days, Jumpman. Now it's on college jerseys. They still make the shoes. You want to talk about a guy who has had a major impact in the sports world outside of his playing days too, from business side. You've got Jordan. Now look what, even in dabbling in NASCAR. Wasn't a great owner in the NBA, but still a huge impact in the world of sports long past his playing days. Michael Jordan, that's easy. Another person that a lot of you mentioned on my Facebook post, Tiger Woods. I've long said it before that Tiger Woods made golf cool for me, and I think for a lot of people in my generation when we were younger, because I think golf had this conception, this thing over him, like kind of a fancy sport, maybe kind of you got to have money to play, a gentleman's game, and that. He made it cool. And when you're a kid, when you're younger, you want to do stuff that's cool. You want to play stuff that's cool, right? You kind of want to do stuff where you're not going to get maybe picked on or ridiculed or whatever. He made it cool. He got Nike on, which made it cooler because it's like, okay, Nike's in it. Nike's like a big brand in that. So commercials were cool. He made it cool. He changed the game of golf. Made it more, it's like, okay, an athlete. You got to be an athlete to play golf. Tiger did that. All the wins, all the championships, a lot of scandal at the end of his career here. You can't ignore that either. But in terms of the sporting world, you can't tell. Again, the basis of this thing is, can you tell the history of American sports in the last 250 years without this? Can't without Tiger. I mean, the effect that he still had winning the Masters a few years ago. When Tiger's in contention on a Sunday, or if he's playing and he's not even in contention, the amount of eyes that still go to him and to watch him is unbelievable. So Tiger's on that list. Tom Brady. I mean, again, a lot of you on there too. For many, the GOAT of the NFL. Definitely with the most championships. And you're kind of seeing the next wave of his sports life. Part owner of the Raiders, right? He's a broadcaster and such. But for a lot of us, we've witnessed Brady from the beginning. It's the story of a draft pick, 6th round pick, gets in and ends up maybe being arguably the greatest football player that we have seen. And it goes to that whole GOAT debate in football. Is it championships? Is it talent? Is it a little bit? And it's like, I don't want to necessarily like Tom Brady was a talent. Tom Brady was talented. But was he the most physically gifted quarterback in the NFL history? No. And I think he'd tell you that too. But what matters the most? It's rings, right? He played for a long time. He's got a lot of records that I don't know if they'll ever be broken because of his longevity in the game. But when you look at it with those rings and the amount of times that he went to a Super Bowl, I don't think that's going to be matched, at least in my lifetime. That bar is set so incredibly high, that I don't see that happening anytime soon. So when you look at the football world, when you look at the NFL, you got to throw Tom Brady in there. While I know this next person was not born, in case anybody's wondering if this is just all athletes that were born in the USA, not necessarily. And again, I don't think you could tell the history of American sports in the last 250 years without at least acknowledging the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I know he was born in Canada, but a lot of his playing days, they were in the United States. Whether he was playing, with the Kings, the Rangers, or hot minute for the Blues and such. You can't tell the history of the NHL without Wayne Gretzky. He was with the Phoenix Coyotes post-playing career too. But when I think of hockey, I think of Wayne Gretzky. I think of video games. And that's the other thing too about Tiger Woods I forgot to mention. You want to talk about another golf video games, Tiger Woods video games, for crying out loud. Wayne Gretzky, it's, straight up, when I know he was born in Canada, but he played on USA teams. He played on American teams. He played a lot of games in this country of ours. And when you think about NHL, to me, with all the GOATs and the best of all times and such, Wayne Gretzky probably, for many sports voters, I don't want to speak for any of them, but if you had to say, okay, who's the GOAT of each sport? I feel like Wayne Gretzky would get the majority of he would have the highest votes in his sport. Like Jordan and LeBron may split votes, but I think the gap between Gretzky and the second one, whether it's Gordie Howe or whatever, maybe just a little bit higher. You know what I mean? So Gretzky might get, I'm just going to throw out some numbers, 80% of the vote, where Jordan might get 60% of the vote. It feels like a majority, when you ask the question, who's the GOAT in each sport, more are going to say Gretzky for hockey. I mean, you can't tell the story of hockey without Wayne Gretzky, even with his playing time in the NHL and such. I'm going to go, so that's 4. Again, these aren't the top 10. These are just 10 athletes right away because we got a lot more to get to here. But Michael Phelps, I mean, you want to talk about one of the most decorated Olympians of all time. Michael Phelps, his Olympic career, it's just the dominating things that he did in the Olympics he was must watch for. And I'll admit, I'm not the biggest Olympic fan, but when Michael Phelps was on, I was watching, because what he did in that pool as an Olympic athlete was pretty darn special. I mean, 28 medals all across the board. He holds the all-time record for Olympic gold medals at 23. Olympic gold medals in individual events, 13. And 16 Olympic medals in individual events, just all medals. So 13 of the 16 were all gold. Michael Phelps is one of the most dominating athletes that we have ever seen in America's history. What he did in the pool, what he did on that Olympic stage for a long time, that was special. That was incredibly special. And we've had some great Olympic athletes over its history. But when you talk about the most decorated, most medals and such, I think that record is going to be very, very, very hard to top. So Michael Phelps has to be on this list. Muhammad Ali, going the boxing route. Cassius Clay, floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. When you talk about the greatest boxers in history, his name's up there. For a lot of people, it might be number 1. I think probably the majority, they're going to say it's number 1. But again, when you talk about the history of sports, pop culture, you talk about icons in the sport, you talk about, popularity. Yeah, definitely some outside the ring debates and issues on his thoughts and his choices, and I know the draft resistance on there ruffled the feathers of a lot of people, but his impact on the world, his impact in the sports world, going up against epic fights of Joe Frazier and Sonny Liston, pound for pound for a lot of people, the best boxer of all time. And when you talk about it from, again, a pop culture standpoint in the world of sports, when you think about boxing, who's the first name you think of besides Rocky Balboa? It's probably Muhammad Ali. You got to have him on that top 10 list. Serena Williams. Just the other day, she's coming out of retirement to play some doubles. But when you talk about maybe the most decorated women's tennis player of all time, most dominant women's tennis player of all time, it's Serena Williams. She was ranked as the world number one for 319 weeks, third most of all time, finished as the year-end at number one 5 times. She won 73 WTA Tour-level singles titles, including 23 major women's singles titles, the most in the Open era and the second most of all time. She is the only player to accomplish a career career Golden Slam in both singles and doubles. To me, is the most dominating women's tennis player of all time, one of the most dominating tennis players of all time. What she did on the courts and just kind of her rise with her and her sister Venus Williams, but Serena, she was absolutely spectacular to watch on that tennis court. Again, I'm not the biggest tennis fan, but there was a lot of times when I would tune in just to watch her on the court and seeing what she was going to do and seeing the dominance that she was displaying. And when I think about women's tennis and I think about tennis just in general, I got to go with Serena Williams, right up there. Next up, some of you mentioned it on my Facebook page, but he may not be like Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame and Baseball Hall of Fame and that, but I got to throw Bo Jackson in there too. Again, when you talk about some of the best athletes of all time, Bo Jackson is up there. His careers ended because of injury. Now, he is in the College Football Hall of Fame. But when you talk about dual sports, Bo Jackson, baseball, football, dude was fun to watch. Tecmo Bowl, again, pop culture, right? We still talk about Bo Jackson. And when you talk about players that, man, if you could, like, who's the player whose career was cut short due to injuries that you would love to see have a full career? Bo Jackson's at the top of the list for a lot of people. Easily one of the greatest athletes of all time. And the fact that he could play 2 professional sports at a high level is so incredibly rare. And when you talk about the history of sports in America in the last 250 years, you talk about maybe the best or one of the best to play at the highest of levels, one of the best athletes of all time, you got to throw Bo Jackson in there. You can't tell the history of American sports without telling the story of Bo Jackson. I mean, whether we're talking about playing Tecmo Bowl or whether we're talking about him playing for the Raiders or how many times, I just saw it again the other day when he's playing with the Royals and that throw, gunning him out at first base or some catches. I mean, the plays, we still see them all over the place because he was amazing to watch. And speaking of one of the best athletes of all time, you got to throw Jim Thorpe in there. Jim Thorpe, for many people, or Jim Thorpe was one of the best, if not the best athlete of all time for a lot of people. You're talking about a guy who won Olympic gold medals, played professional football, played professional baseball, basketball. You want to talk about athlete? This guy was an athlete. Pro Football Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame, first president of the NFL. I mean, there was the controversy of the 1912 Summer Olympics with his gold medals. They got taken away, but now he got them back just a few years ago. More people probably think of him as a football player. And with those Canton Bulldogs, he was a great player. But he was a pretty good baseball player too. And track and fields for the Olympics. but he did have a little bit of a basketball career too. In 1926, he was the main feature of the world-famous Indians of LaRue, Ohio, a traveling basketball team. You want to talk about an athlete, and you want to talk about, and especially in the early days of sports, Jim Thorpe. I mean, you got to throw him in there. One of the best athletes that this country, that this world has ever seen. And then my last one for just today, I mean, we're talking about players that, kind of were icons, pop culture icons. And actually, I'm going to say that one. Let me backtrack because I got my whole list here. I got to go Babe Ruth. When you talk about baseball, and a lot of you mentioned that there too, I mean, Babe Ruth, okay? Kids know. Today's kids know who Babe Ruth is. They may not know exactly who Babe Ruth is, or they may not know exactly what Babe Ruth did, but they know. Babe Ruth is one of the best baseball players of all time, and still for many, the best player of all time. The Sultan of Swats. The Great Bambino. I mean, it's the Sandlot movie. Just, the other day, a couple weeks ago, we were getting ready for a Little League game. My team was. We're in the cage, and the kids who were outside, warming up before it was their turn to cage, they were quoting the movie Sandlot, and they kept saying the Babe Ruth parts. The impact, even though his playing days were in the early 1900s, early mid-1900s, the impact that he still has nearly 100 years later on younger baseball players. People know who he is. Not many athletes can say that. When you talk about the game of baseball, Babe Ruth. That's the first name a lot of people still think of, is Babe Ruth. When you think about some of the major sports out there, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, NHL, MLB, who's the first athlete that comes to your mind? Jordan for many for basketball. That is for me. NFL, it's probably Brady. Major League Baseball for me, no question, it's Babe Ruth. So those are the first 10 of many more athletes to come. Again, this isn't, for some that could be the top 10 for most influential, best athletes in the last 250 years and such, but we got a lot more to go through. We got coaches, we got games, we've got teams even. I put teams on there because there's certain teams, not all teams, but there's certain teams where you can't tell the history without mentioning some of these teams, like iconic franchises, iconic teams, dynasties, right? And, of course, coaches have to be on there too. So